There's a conversation happening inside your head right now that you've been avoiding for years. It's not the voice of your conscience telling you to be better. It's not your rational mind analyzing your next move. It's something deeper, something that whispers truths you've spent a lifetime trying to silence. That voice knows something about you that makes your carefully constructed identity feel like tissue paper in a hurricane. Stop for a moment and feel it, that slight discomfort crawling up your spine when you're alone with your thoughts. The way your mind races to fill every quiet moment with distractions, tasks, or noise. You've been running from something, haven't you? Something that Carl Jung called the shadow, the parts of yourself you've deemed unacceptable, the aspects of your personality you've buried so deep you've convinced yourself they don't exist. But here's what no one tells you about personal growth. The very things you're hiding from yourself are the keys to your authentic power. Every quality you've rejected, every impulse you've suppressed, every dark thought you've pushed away, these aren't obstacles to overcome. They're fragments of your wholeness waiting to be reclaimed. Think about the person you present to the world. The version of yourself you've polished and perfected for public consumption. The one who always says the right thing, who never reveals too much weakness, who maintains just the right balance of confidence and humility. That's not who you are. That's who you think you need to be to survive in a world that rewards conformity over authenticity. What would happen if you stopped performing? What if you allowed yourself to be seen in your full complexity, not just your strengths, but your petty jealousies, your secret fears, your moments of weakness? Most people recoil from this possibility because they've been taught that acceptance means hiding their flaws, not integrating them. Jung understood something revolutionary. The goal isn't to become perfect, but to become whole. Wholeness includes your darkness. It includes the parts of you that are selfish, angry, or afraid. It includes your capacity for cruelty alongside your capacity for love. This isn't about becoming a worse person, it's about becoming a real person. Your shadow isn't your enemy, it's your disowned power. Every time you judge someone else's behavior, you're encountering a projection of your own repressed qualities. The person who annoys you with their arrogance, look closer. There's a part of you that wants to be seen as important. The individual who seems weak or needy, you're likely rejecting your own vulnerability. Your strongest reactions to others are mirrors reflecting the parts of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. This recognition isn't comfortable. It's designed to shatter your illusions about your own goodness, your own superiority, your own specialness. But in that shattering lies your liberation. When you stop pretending to be someone you're not, you free up enormous amounts of energy that were previously spent maintaining your facade. Consider how exhausting it is to constantly monitor yourself, to second-guess every word, to calculate every action based on how it will be perceived. You've been living like an actor who never gets to leave the stage, never gets to drop character, never gets to simply exist without performance. That constant vigilance has robbed you of spontaneity, creativity, and genuine connection with others. The shadow work Jung advocated isn't about wallowing in your darkness, it's about acknowledging it so you can integrate it consciously. When you recognize your capacity for anger, you can channel it into healthy boundaries and righteous action. When you accept your need for recognition, you can pursue meaningful achievement without shame. When you embrace your vulnerability, you can form deeper connections with others. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate their negative qualities, but this approach backfires spectacularly. The more you resist something, the more power it has over you. The anger you suppress leaks out in passive-aggressive behavior. The neediness you deny manifests as desperate attempts to prove your independence. The control you disown shows up as rigid thinking and inflexibility. Integration means bringing these aspects into conscious awareness where you can work with them rather than be controlled by them. It means developing a relationship with your whole self, not just the parts you're proud of, but the parts that make you human. This process requires courage because it means giving up the safety of your known identity It means risking the disapproval of others who are invested in keeping you small and predictable. It means acknowledging that you're not the person you thought you were. And that's both terrifying and liberating. Your false self, the one you've been perfecting for years, is like a beautiful prison. It keeps you safe from rejection, but it also keeps you isolated from genuine connection. It protects you from failure, but it also prevents you from taking meaningful risks. It shields you from criticism, but it also blocks you from authentic self-expression. The person you've been trying to be is exhausted. They've been carrying the weight of impossible expectations, constantly striving to meet standards that were never meant to be met by a real human being. They've been living in fear of discovery, terrified that someone will see through their carefully constructed image and realize they're not as perfect as they pretend to be. But what if that discovery is exactly what you need? What if being seen in your full humanity, flaws and all, is the beginning of real intimacy, real connection, real belonging? What if your imperfections aren't bugs in your programming, but features that make you interesting, relatable, and genuinely lovable? The shadow contains not just your darkness, but your disowned light. The qualities you admire in others but believe you don't possess: creativity, spontaneity, boldness, sensuality. These too are part of your shadow. You've rejected them not because they're bad, but because they threaten your carefully controlled image of who you think you should be. Integration means reclaiming these golden qualities along with the darker ones. It means allowing yourself to be creative without needing to be perfect. It means being spontaneous without having to plan every detail. It means being bold without having to guarantee success. It means being sensual without shame or apology. This is the betrayal Jung spoke of, betraying your false self to serve your true nature. It's not betrayal in the sense of being disloyal, but in the sense of revealing what was always there beneath the surface. It's pulling back the curtain on your own Wizard of Oz and discovering that the real you is far more interesting than the projection you've been maintaining. The path to authentic power doesn't run through perfection, it runs through integration. It doesn't require you to become someone else, it requires you to become more fully yourself. It doesn't demand that you eliminate your darkness, it asks you to dance with it, to learn from it, to transform it into wisdom and strength. Your shadow is waiting. It's been patient, but it won't wait forever. Every crisis in your life, every moment when your mask slips and you feel exposed, every time you feel like you're living someone else's life, these are invitations to begin the work of integration. The question isn't whether you'll eventually face your shadow. The question is whether you'll do it consciously, with intention and courage, or whether you'll wait for life to force the confrontation upon you. Now that you've glimpsed the truth behind your carefully constructed facade, let's venture deeper into territory that most people never dare to explore. Because recognizing your shadow is only the first step. The real transformation begins when you understand that your entire approach to life has been built on a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be human. You've been taught that success means transcending your limitations, that growth means overcoming your weaknesses, that wisdom means controlling your impulses. But what if the opposite is true? What if real power comes from embracing your limitations, real growth comes from accepting your weaknesses, and real wisdom comes from understanding your impulses rather than suppressing them? This is where most personal development approaches fail spectacularly. They promise to help you become a better version of yourself, but they never question whether the version you're trying to become is worth becoming. They offer techniques to manage your emotions, but they never ask whether your emotions might be trying to tell you something important. They provide strategies for achieving your goals, but they never examine whether your goals are actually yours or someone else's expectations you've internalized. The individuation process Jung described isn't about self-improvement, it's about self-discovery. It's not about becoming more than you are, It's about becoming who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning, expectation, and social programming. This distinction matters because it determines whether you spend your life trying to fit into someone else's mold or discovering your own unique shape. Consider the goals you're currently pursuing. How many of them emerged from your authentic desires, and how many were inherited from your family, culture, or society? How many of your fears are actually yours, and how many were learned from people who were afraid of their own shadows? How many of your values reflect your true nature, and how many are borrowed from sources that never really knew you? This questioning process can be deeply unsettling because it reveals how much of your life has been lived on autopilot, following scripts written by others. But it's also liberating because it opens up possibilities you never considered when you were trying to be someone else's version of success. The shadow work goes beyond integrating your darkness. It extends to questioning the very foundation of your identity. Who are you when you're not trying to be anyone? What emerges when you stop performing, stop achieving, stop proving your worth? This is where the real you begins to surface. Not the you that's been carefully crafted for public consumption, but the you that exists in those quiet moments when no one is watching. Most people are terrified of this authentic self because it doesn't fit into neat categories. It's contradictory, complex, and often inconvenient. It might want things that don't make sense to others. It might be drawn to experiences that seem irrational or impractical. It might have needs that can't be satisfied through conventional means. But this is your power source, not the sanitized version you present to the world, but the raw, unfiltered essence of who you are. When you connect with this authentic self, you gain access to energy, creativity, and intuition that your false self could never provide. You discover resources within yourself that you didn't know existed. The betrayal Jung referenced isn't just about abandoning your false self. It's about betraying the entire system of values and beliefs that keep you trapped in that false self. It's about questioning everything you've been told about what makes a life worth living. It's about examining the assumptions you've never questioned because they seem so obviously true. What if security isn't the highest value? What if being liked isn't necessary for happiness? What if success doesn't look like what you've been taught to expect? What if your purpose isn't grand and noble, but simple and personal? What if your greatest contribution to the world isn't through achievement, but through authenticity? These questions threaten the entire edifice of conventional wisdom, and that's exactly why they're so powerful. They force you to confront the possibility that you've been living according to someone else's blueprint, following someone else's map, pursuing someone else's dreams. The process of reclaiming your authentic self isn't gentle or gradual. It's often violent and sudden. It might involve leaving relationships that no longer serve you, abandoning career paths that feel hollow, or disappointing people who are invested in keeping you as you are. This isn't about being reckless or irresponsible. It's about being honest about what actually nourishes your soul versus what merely maintains your image. Your shadow contains not just your repressed darkness, but your repressed aliveness, the parts of you that are wild, unpredictable, passionate, and free. These have been pushed underground along with your anger, fear, and selfishness. Integrating your shadow means reclaiming your full spectrum of human experience, not just the socially acceptable parts. This integration changes how you move through the world. Instead of constantly monitoring yourself for signs of imperfection, you become curious about what emerges. Instead of trying to control every outcome, you learn to trust your instincts. Instead of seeking approval from others, you develop an internal compass that guides your decisions. The authentic self doesn't need external validation because it's already whole. It doesn't need to prove anything because it exists beyond the realm of comparison. It doesn't need to be perfect because it understands that perfection is an illusion that keeps you separated from life itself. When you stop trying to be someone else's idea of who you should be, you discover that you're already everything you need to be. Not perfect, not complete, not finished, but real, alive, and uniquely yourself. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not becoming special or enlightened, but becoming genuine. The world needs your authenticity more than it needs your perfection. Your genuine thoughts, feelings, and experiences, including the messy, complicated, and inconvenient ones, are your gift to the world. When you stop hiding behind a false self, you give others permission to do the same. This is the ultimate betrayal. Betraying the collective agreement to pretend that we're all fine, that we have it all figured out, that we don't struggle with darkness, doubt, and confusion. When you refuse to participate in this collective pretense, you become a beacon for others who are tired of performing and ready to start living. Your shadow isn't your enemy, it's your unexplored potential. Your darkness isn't your flaw. It's your depth. Your imperfections aren't your shame, they're your humanity. When you embrace all of this, you don't become a worse person, you become a real person. And a real person has access to power, creativity, and joy that a false person can never touch. The choice is yours. You can continue refining your mask, polishing your image, and perfecting your performance. Or you can take the terrifying, exhilarating step of showing up as you actually are. Shadow and light, darkness and brilliance, human and divine. The second option is the only one that leads to authentic power, genuine connection, and a life that feels worth living. Your shadow is calling. It's time to answer.